There we go. Hi there.
Hi.
How's it going?
So far, so good.
Good. It's great to see you again.
Good to see you too.
I have really enjoyed this particular volume of poetry. I love the backdrop. I find that, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts of it, but I find that when you go into poetry, and maybe it's because I've loved it and written it for so long, I have to get my brain ready for different types of poetry. You know, like there's Billy Collins is like becoming a race driver and having to pick up a bunch of ducks off of like a pond while I do it. So maybe I'm in a race boat and maybe there's times where I can relax and maybe have a gin and tonic, but most of the time I have to be lucid and I have to like or not even lucid in that way, but just like really on top of it. But with what you have written, it's like my brain can really relax and start painting. I can get into those subconscious waters. I can get into kind of a zone where I can get into that dream state, which was a part of the how you constructed it. Maybe that's just how I approach it. I don't know how you approach reading poetry. How do you do it?
One at a time.
Yeah.
I can't do a volume of poetry. I'm amazed that anyone can do a volume of poetry. That's why mine is more like a story than it
Yeah.
is like so that there's a through line in terms of flow. Because I'll go to a poem and fall in love with it and go back to it again and again and again. And eventually I'll check another poem out in the same collection. But very rarely do I like sit down and just absorb poetry like I did when I was an undergraduate, for example, where we had to read a whole volume of whatever.
I think that's so true because I don't think it's good to do that because I think poetry is you're maximizing English in a way that's just, it's so expansive. It's like eating too much at a buffet. It's not a good idea. You know,
Exactly.
you want to kind of go around like a little gerbil and get just enough and
Yes.
then come back another day,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
Um, so new volume of poetry out, and I'm curious, before we get into this volume, it's been a little while since we've interviewed, and I believe when we interviewed, we really kind of did tap into what's going on in the world. And right now, the world is in a place that is stressful, it's strange, it's clowny, and it could be rife for people that are writers to write about it right now. I mean, what if Ginsberg was alive right now? What kind of stuff would him and Kerouac be coming up with?
Yeah. I think that the artists are making a lot of art in this post-pandemic psychosis that we are in, that we're falling into exactly what happened after the Spanish flu, when
Yeah.
fascism swept across Europe.
That's interesting. That's totally true. And and the more I think about what we're going through, if we aren't stewards of history, if we don't learn the lessons of history, like you just said,
Yeah,
we're going to repeat it.
exactly. And we
And
don't learn. We don't learn.
no, we don't. But I think that the one thing is that I think the artists and the writers and the musicians and the poets, I think that's going to be the thing that's going to be the social glue that's going to save us
I agree.
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
So, how are you remaining hopeful during this very strange time? Is it writing? Is it family? Like, what are you doing? Just because we got to stay grounded. We can't
Mhm.
become a buoy that goes beyond
Mhm.
the eyeball. We're going to get lost at sea.
Yeah. Well, I'm very ritualized and structured so that my ego doesn't get swept away in the day. I wake up, I make coffee, I cuddle my husband, I take the dog out, I make space for meditation, yoga, exercise before I go to the internet, and I only have little snacks of the news. I do not watch the news. I haven't really since 2015 when that man came down the escalator
Wow.
and said, I'm running for president, and then became president. I've had to look away and then get involved, and then look away and get involved for my own health. Waking up at 4 in the morning, worrying about what's going on in the Middle East. My father was a Middle East expert in oil at the Treasury Department when I was growing up, and he said this was going to be the thing that brought us down, was our dependence on Middle East oil.
Yeah.
And that was in the 60s.
Wow.
So it's hard to watch, but it's also when I go to sleep at night, I look forward to traveling to the places I go. This morning, at the very end of my dream, some convict broke loose and everybody's chasing him. And suddenly he's on a horse and he's riding off into the sunset. And the title of the poem was The Outlaw Got Away. And that part of me that is creative can get away from the melee and ride out and just ride out and create in those spaces rather than be stuck in the drama of what's going on. I do believe our Constitution will eventually hold.
Yeah.
I grew up, I gestated on Capitol Hill. My mom worked for Estes Kefauver and worked on the Senate crime hearings in the 50s when she was pregnant with me. So I have I have Washington in my blood, even though I've been in Los Angeles since I was 25.
Wow.
It is it's my bones. It's in my bones.
Interesting. So, talk to me a little bit about this volume. What really made you decide that you were going to take these dreams and you were going to make it into a volume of poetry?
Well, I've been keeping dreams my whole life, but really intentionally studying my dreams as psychological constructs, as trauma recovery, as soon as the pandemic hit. And there was nowhere to go but inside. And that's where Ashes in the Milk got born, my first book. But while I was doing that book, I was also writing down the dreams every night and and just keeping a book called my green book. Jung had a red book that he kept things in. I had a green leather big notebook, and I was just putting the dreams in there and the recollections. And when I went to write my second book, I thought I was going to write about a coming of age novel, growing up in Tokyo in the 1960s at the escalation of the Vietnam War. Hold on one second.
Oh, you're
You want
fine.
to come up here? Want to come up here? Yeah, come here, baby. My my puppy has decided that she's a puppy
I
again,
love it.
and she wants to be on my
I
lap.
love it. I absolutely love it. And anytime an animal can come into the focus, it makes it all that much better.
It does. It
Great.
does. And I'm wearing her favorite body lotion. So I'm going to get a bath while we talk.
That's wonderful. So
But
cool.
it's just fine. Thank God. She's what gets me through.
Yeah.
Well, I play a lot of ball and a
Yeah.
lot of tug of war every day.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
But when I sat down to write this, I was in Anne Randolph's writing cohort called Unmute Yourself, Your Story Matters. And we write off of prompts. And I never write off of the prompts because I'm an outlaw riding out into the sunset. And so I sit down the first day and I'm ready to pull out all of my notes about meeting my best friend in Tokyo and what happened to me there and how she kind of was like a hungry ghost who co-opted my soul. And instead of writing that, Samuel Beckett, who's my dream figure man who shows up um, in my dreams, he says, "Bring out your dream journal and make a poem out of each dream. Just bring them to the page." So I got out my green book and I pulled a poem and I made it into a like poetic story. And I put it up in the chat where we all put our writing at the end of the day. And I got fabulous responses from it of,
Wow.
oh my God, this reminded me of my dream of this, or how did you do that from your dream? And so I started doing it. And by the end of maybe 3 or 4 months, I had 110,000 words. It was a monster manuscript. It reminded me of Spalding Gray's Monster,
Yeah.
right? And I just did not know what to do with the monster. So I hired a developmental editor,
Yeah.
gave her my psychological underpinnings of Carl Jung and spiritual individuation and all of that. And she brought me back 40,000 words of the cream.
Wow.
And then I traded some out like baseball cards. Like, I'm keeping this one. This one tells this story, and I'll get rid of that one. And when I was getting ready to do the author photograph, for Ashes in the Milk, I was sitting on the stairs of the house I was staying in, and my friend Douglas Hill was taking my author photo. Has a collection of photographs. He's an architectural photographer mostly,
Yeah.
Los Angeles. He
Yeah.
photographs LA,
Yeah.
and he's collected, and people love his work. And I'm sitting on the stairs, and I go, you know what? I think the name of my book should be Night Flights, which is a series of his photographs of staircases.
Yeah. Wow.
That's the staircase in the back. And I said, would you mind? And he goes, I took it from Saint-Exupéry's Night Flight. The man who wrote The Little Prince was a pilot, and he wrote a book
Yeah.
called Night Flight about flying.
Yeah.
And so we're all kind of in this together, me and Doug Hale, who I've known for 30 years, and the man who wrote The Little Prince.
Yeah.
And in the zeitgeist, The Little Prince, goes and asks the snake to please bite him so that he can go home. The medicine of the snake
Yeah.
sends him home. And a huge part of my poetic work is in meeting snakes,
Yeah.
you know,
That's
medicine,
yeah, that's fascinating. Do you dream a lot? I mean, do you have vivid dreams every night? Okay.
just
Th-
about it. Well, I have periods of big dreams, and then I have latency where I'm integrating whatever it is that
Okay.
something is bringing forward. Yeah.
I used to dream more, and I know there's things that you can do to reignite it. And I wonder in this age of digital AI and all of that, if they're going to come up with some kind of way of putting a diode up that will be able to transcode. But that might take the fun out of it. Do you think that could just transform and make it dull?
Yeah, it would be
Yeah.
controlled.
Yeah, it
That's
would
why
be.
I don't like lucid dreaming
Yeah.
because it feels like controlling and that engages ego. When you
Yeah.
are asleep, the default mode of the ego is set aside, and there is a dream ego, but that's different. Psyche is in charge, the soul is in charge,
Yeah.
and it's giving you postcards. Dear Valerie, here's how you are right now. Here's where you're heading. About a month ago, I had 4 big dreams, so now I'm writing a novel based on these 4 dreams.
Wow.
I had a dream that I was in my car with my mother and she was driving us and I was small and I was holding the paper map. Remember those maps that
Uh-huh.
your dad would spread across the
Oh,
dashboard
yeah.
and
Yeah.
tell mom where to go,
Yeah.
right? And she'd go, not this way, that way. And she'd be pointing at the map and driving. And it was one of those maps and I'm clutching it to my chest with joy. And I know we're going to the redwoods. We're going to a magical place. And then the dreams unfolded throughout the night. I kept waking up and writing them down. And then weaving them into a story. Because if people can't get night flights, get it, which I hope they can get the same thing from a novel.
Yeah.
Because novels are so palatable by comparison. So is that terrible that my dog is like going
No,
up my
no,
arm
no,
while
no.
we're doing
No, no,
this?
no, I love it. And I love dogs. I have 3 at home. I've
Uh,
always had dogs, but I have cats too, and there's a level of for some reason I've always had a really good kinship with cats. And I'll just see a tail swish around. And I'm like, "Uh-oh, here comes the cat." But their animals tend to come in. I don't know what it is, but it's
uh,
great. And when it happens, I remember during the pandemic, I interviewed Diane Shure, and she's kind of a jazz legend, and she's always on the road. And she, I will never forget that interview. Her cat was in there, and she kept talking to her cat, and it was like I really embraced it during that period more than anything
uh,
else. Like it used to be one of those things where everybody would want to be like, "All right, we'll keep the animals out of the frame." But I think it was that time period where it was like, no, we need to have them in there. They're a part of who we are. They make us comfortable. It's just like let them be, and they're going to be comfortable because if you put them out, they're going to want to keep coming back in. So if you just embrace it, it's almost like a child.
yes,
Just explain to them the dangers of alcohol, and then hopefully later on in life they'll be fine with it.
exactly.
That kind of a thing.
Exactly.
So,
Yeah.
it seems to me when I think about the idea of taking your dreams and constructing these narratives, whether it's a novel or it's poetry, it's like the best medicine for the soul because you're healing your life,
Yeah.
all these fragments, whether it's the past or the present, and you're putting it into a cohesive that's like medicine. It's like you're resolving things and you're
Yes,
healing right now, but you're not forgetting the past.
right. In ancient Greece, the medicine men would take you into what was called the Asclepian temple,
Yeah.
and you were asked to go to sleep and have a dream, and then they turned the dream into medicine. There's actually, I just heard about this yesterday, a man who's working with PTSD with Vietnam and war vets from Middle East wars, who have post-traumatic stress, where he's doing an Asclepian thing of sending them into the dream time and then doing retreats with the men together where they do a kind of Asclepian healing of dreams of war and trauma.
Wow.
And this Australian podcaster who I met with yesterday, who I'm going to do an interview with, is interviewing this other psychologist next week. And so the dreams build on the dreams, and it is medicine. The snake goes around the American Medical Association's staff.
Uh-huh.
The snake bite is medicine. It turns into lachesis, a homeopathic remedy. When a snake sheds its skin each year, right? It's renewed. It's an emblem of renewal. There's all these rich, juicy things that we find out when we tend a dream and go back and find out, oh, so what is it with jaguar or wild boar? Who are these animals that come in the night,
Yeah.
right? And when they come in nightmare, which is the most important dream, you do not bypass a nightmare as, oh, it's bad. You ask it what medicine it's carrying,
Yeah.
right? And so I had this dream. I was in my elementary school playground, and I said, I'm going to go home now. And we're adults. And one of the adults said, don't go across the backyards anymore. You can't go across the playground. It's different now. And I poo-pooed them, and I go out across the playground because my parents' house butted up against the playground, and it's been torn up, like it's been bombed or torn apart. And I'm climbing over dirt and around dirt and trying to gain purchase to get into the backyard. And I get through the gate, and a wild boar begins to chase me.
Wow.
And I'm running down the hill toward the sliding glass door. And just about at the door, a black jaguar comes out of the rose garden. And they're both chasing me. And I get in and I pull the slider closed, and they're both at the door. And I woke up going, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like this is a big dream. So I go back into the dream later that morning, and I say to Boar, now it's not the Boar or a Boar, it's Boar. So he's in the archetypal realm. I say, Boar, why are you chasing me? And he looks back over his shoulder and points to where he came from at the top of my mother's garden. And it's where we put my father's ashes.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I come bearing the ancestors and the pain of the ancestors.
Wow.
And I said, show me, how can I help? And he shows me this vision of my 7 great uncles, all the brothers. My grandfather was one of 8 boys, and the 7 uncles who did not make it out of Ukraine during the Russian killing of Jews. They were sitting in the forest around a fire, starving to death.
Wow.
And I said, how can I help? And of course, they said, kill Putin.
Wow.
And I said, well, I don't have that much power really, but I have a magic wand. I do. I have a magic wand. Poppy, can I get my wand?
Uh,
I want to show Joe my wand. This is my wand. I've had
Yeah.
it for 35 years.
Yeah.
It doesn't really work, but I use it anyway.
Yeah.
When patients get stuck, I'll say, wait a minute, let me get my wand.
I love it.
Because this is going to need some big magic. And I
Yeah.
wave my wand, and an imaginal Patronus, like from Harry Potter,
Yeah.
of the Great Bear, which is the California
Uh-huh.
bear where I am, and it's also Mother Russia's bear, right? And the Great Bear took off out of my wand and headed for Russia. I don't know what happened there.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's still on her way there,
Yeah.
but the, the ancestors were able to show me where my hunger comes from. When I have irrational, insatiable hunger, like so many people that are either fully Jewish or half Jewish, people who've been through the Irish potato famine, different lineages where the ancestors were starving, there's this hunger that's in the DNA. And I was able to thank boar and jaguar for scaring the mother loving crap out of me
Yeah.
to make me wake up enough for the ancestors to speak to me, which is just the kind of thing that you light a candle and hope to have happen.
Yeah.
You can't make it up.
Yeah. Well, it almost sounds like the clairvoyance and those that can see the other side. When I've interviewed, there's a lot of these things that you have to kind of go seek, but it almost seems like your conscious and subconscious are coming together to create your own level of I don't know if it would be spirit walking or messaging. That I mean, that would be something people would go to talk about because we have all these generational traumas that lead
Yeah,
up to who we are that are unresolved, that we don't know any of the stories about, and we wouldn't know unless we
right.
had some level of mysticism that would allow us to see that.
Yes. Or a mom that'll answer your questions.
Right.
Mommy, what happened to me when I was 6 weeks old and you got sick? Oh, your father, he spilled ashes and the only milk in the house. But it was okay. You went over the bottle without a fuss.
Yeah.
That was their myth, that I went over to the bottle without a fuss, but part of me died that day.
Yeah.
And I was able to finally get all of the stories about the milk from my mother
Yeah.
and collect that part of me, that divine child. I was able to have a dream where my childhood dog was lost. She was kidnapped, taken to a cave near my parents' house. And I was given a map to get there, and I found her, and she was wrapped in this bedspread that I'd had on my bed back when I was a hippie, when I was a little hippie, one of those Indian bedspreads.
Yeah.
And Phoebe is wrapped in the bedspread, and that she's skinny and dirty. And I take her to my mother's house to be cleaned and taken care of, right? That's the divine child's dream,
Yeah.
where I'm coming back and getting the baby and taking care of her. And I've had maybe 8 or 10 profound dreams. Giving birth to a baby on the beach
Yeah.
it's in night flights where I'm just on the beach in Hermosa Beach, and this baby comes flying out of me, and I'm holding her, and I can't get to the strand to get help, and I think we're gonna die. But eventually I get her into my car and I drive her home. We're still connected. The umbilical cord is still connected to me
Yeah.
while I'm dreaming.
Wow.
You can't make that up. This
No.
is Psyche saying, I'm giving you gifts. I'm
Yeah.
sending you postcards. Please read your mail.
Yeah.
So, my message, my calling in all of this is to help people read the mail
Yeah.
that is being sent to them in these fabulous films
Yeah.
that are being made every night, right?
And they're the best kind of films. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Do you have a reoccurring dream? Do you have a dream that comes back on
Oh,
a
yeah.
regular basis? Yeah.
Yeah. Tsunamis.
Oh, wow.
Tsunamis. I've had them since I was 16, but when I was 19 and I almost died and left my body at the bottom of the ocean, I think that was what tsunami was calling me to, was to go and find my 19-year-old self.
Wow.
And I did. I left her at the bottom of the ocean when I thought I was dying. And I found her about 3, 4 years ago when Steve Eisenstadt, who was my dream tending professor, when Steve said, "Get on your horse, Bodhi, get on your horse and ride him into the ocean." And I thought it was like the dumbest thing Steve could ever suggest because horses aren't seahorses, but I followed direction and I did a kind of guided imagery with myself. I rode Bodhi into the ocean. We went all the way to the bottom into the sand and the kelp beds. And there's me.
Wow.
There's me. And I wake her up and I say it's 2022 or whatever. And I bring her onto the back of my horse and we ride out of the ocean with her holding onto my waist.
Wow.
Again, you can't
Yeah.
make this up. You
No.
can't, what I'd love to do is read you the first poem
Please.
if I could, because
Yes.
the name of part one is Unearthing. And I just love this poem because it just really speaks to the whole book and to this whole process.
Yeah.
Mom's backyard, again, same backyard where the boar was, but this was before that. It's dawn at my mother's house. I am up very early. Looking out the sliding glass door in the dining room, I see a big yellow Land Mover entering stage left, tearing up the backyard as it careens around. I slide the door open, lean out. Our dog Maddie slips out the door and begins running. Right behind the Land Mover appears a Palomino horse and a yellow lab. They are golden bookends, sprinting joyfully across the backyard. Maddie dashes to run with them. The man in the Land Mover leans out of the cab and shouts to me, I am here to unearth the troubles of this house. Your father, while well-intentioned, did not know how to raise daughters. No one raised him, I say. I think of his parents, agonized by pogroms, escaping likely death. How do you parent when you are staying alive in America? How do you parent when you are staying alive in America? The earth in the backyard is turned. What was buried is exposed to the sunlight. What was shameful can't bear the light of day. Let the ancestors out of the ground and breed.
Wow. It's amazing. I love it.
From the dream.
Yeah, for sure. What was what was the first poet that really, really left a mark on you that made you fascinated by poetry?
Oh, Dylan Thomas.
Yeah,
Nothing I cared in the lamb-white days that time would take me up to the swallow-thronged loft by the shadow of my hand in the moon that is always rising.
yeah,
I mean, I memorized Fern Hill when I was maybe 15 for school,
yeah,
and it just told me I have the right to my voice. And then I found E. E. Cummings and Kurt Vonnegut. And Kurt Vonnegut, though not a poet, from Slaughterhouse-Five was writing about trauma.
yeah,
And I didn't understand it back then because I didn't understand my trauma. But Billy Pilgrim coming unstuck in time
yeah,
is a dream.
yeah, for sure.
Right? And he was underneath in the slaughterhouse when they were firebombing Dresden.
Yeah.
Talk about trauma,
Oh, yeah,
you know?
absolutely. Yeah, a
Yeah,
lot of his stuff has that kind of dreamy quality to it.
exactly.
All of it. Yeah. And E. E. Cummings, too. I remember early on reading and just how he would undulate around the page and kind
Yeah.
of just compound what he was already saying. It was such a simple yet complex trick of just really hooking you in and following the language.
Yes. My favorite lines by him are when faces called flowers float out of the ground, and
Yeah.
having is giving, and giving is living, and keeping is nothing, and darkness and something. Alive, we're alive, dear. It's like giving is living, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one thing about, I published my first book a
Mhm.
few years ago, and I just think about anybody that decides to publish poetry, you're going up against a tall mountain of literature and written words that people probably don't really delve into, and more in America that's indicative of what's happening today. People just aren't reading on a regular basis, but we do it because we love it. It's almost like jazz musicians. They know what they're getting into. They're not getting into anything lucrative. They're doing it because their soul needs it. How much of this you rationalize? Do you even think about that part of it when you're putting poetry into the world?
Like, will anybody listen?
Yeah, like I mean, like you're going up against a huge mountain, but does any of that matter?
No.
Yeah.
No, when I studied with Jack Grapes back in my mid-20s here in Los Angeles, the Beyond Baroque Poetry Foundation, I learned the method of connecting to my acting, writing self, because Jack was an actor as well as a poet, or is. And I just trust my big voice. Martin Luther King on the mountain, I had a dream, right?
Hmm.
A big voice says, I have a dream. I have a dream.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who reads it. But
Yep.
all I know is that I was in a 12-step meeting on Zoom where I was the speaker. And I told the story about a year ago. I told the story of Ashes in the Milk as my origin story for why I drank and drugged so much in my 20s. And a woman in Maryland shared and said, did you write Ashes in the Milk in Maryland? And I said, yes. And when the meeting was over, she goes, I read your book. A grief counselor in Santa Fe gave it to me. And it was like, I wrote my book for you, lady.
Yeah.
I don't care if anybody else reads my book. I wrote my book
Uh-huh.
for you. You know, the poet Michael Lally put a meme up on Facebook years ago, wonderful writer. And it said something like, you are writing this poem to give a voice because someone who is reading it doesn't have that voice
Yeah.
and needs your voice to say the words so that they can learn and grow as a result of what you have written,
Yeah.
and that's why I write. I don't write for look at me, look at me, look
Yeah.
at me.
Yeah. No, I get that.
I,
Yeah.
I write because of it connecting to someone else who goes, oh, me too. I had that dream. Like yesterday when we were talking about tsunami dreams, I told the story of I was in the dream, I'm standing on the beach, same beach where I gave birth, and a tsunami starts to rise up, and this man is standing next to me. And I turn to run, but there's no sand behind me. It's like a wall. And I'm between the wave and the wall. And he says, can I help you? And I say no, because I'm not really good at receiving help.
Yeah.
I'm the therapist.
Uh-huh.
I'm the helper, right?
Uh-huh.
And I say no, and I wake up and I go back into the dream and I look at him. And when the wave starts to come and he says, can I help? I willfully say yes. You can help me, please. And I think he's going to give me a boost over the wall, right? And instead, he turns and faces the wave, and like Moses, he waves his arm like this, and the wave parts. Literally, it's like something out of Charlton Heston
Yeah.
movie, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And out comes my 6-year-old self with her cowgirl outfit, little red outfit with white fringe, red cowgirl boots, and a 6-shooter. And she is crying her ass off because that was the outfit I was wearing when I was so cool when I was 6 years old. And I tracked dog poo across the living room floor to show my mom that I'd made a gum cigarette. And I said, howdy, partner. And I thought she was going to be like dazzled by my coolness. And instead, and my mother never hit us, she grabbed me by the wrist, pulled me off the floor, and started spanking me,
Yeah.
turned my little face to the poop, and said, look what you've done. Because I didn't wipe my boots up before I got in the house.
Wow.
And I got punished. And when I quit drinking in 1985, that was my first sober memory.
Wow.
It was getting spanked and not knowing why. Because my mom loved me so much. How could she do that?
Yeah.
Right. And once that little girl was with me and Beckett was parting the waves, she's with me now.
That's what I think half the time we do as adults is we're protecting that young version. I remember when I was a kid, very, very young, I pulled red Kool-Aid out. We lived in a townhome, and it was just the biggest pitcher, and I loved Kool-Aid. That spilled everywhere, and all I remember, and I don't even remember, I would have to probably have somebody help me deconstruct it, but it was just yelling, and I felt like Kevin McAllister in Home Alone when they're all like, you always do this and whatever. And I remember my mom rocking me that after it happened and she was crying. And I
Oh,
remember that when you said that, I remember that moment early on. Like I'm just some kid trying to get Kool-Aid out, probably because no one was going to help me. And I spilled it everywhere and I got totally in trouble for it. So yeah, it's interesting. But I always think about that, how we are protecting that young version, or we're saying it's okay, or hey, look where we came, look what we overcame, look what we're doing. And I think being a poet and being able to muse over the calligraphy of this chaos that we go through every day is in itself beautiful. And I think that's what I love to do when I do it, is celebrating all of these moments that we always just kind of pass by. But there's always something that can happen. A cardinal can fly by, some leaf can figure eight. There's something that can always absolutely validate why we're here for this short amount of time, you know?
Yes.
And it's
Yeah.
it's amazing. And to have that ability to connect to somebody too. Um, I know we're probably going to run low on time. I will tell you, my big thrill with my book, getting it out, was that I took it to the library. I was told you could take it and get it in circulation, and I looked it up, and it's actually in circulation. That
Oh,
was heartwarming. Those are the moments when you're
oh,
like, all right, this is awesome, because then in a different way it spreads and it's in the
yeah.
system. It's fun. It's a lot
Yeah.
of fun, you
Yes,
know.
it is. It is.
Um, so Night Flights, is it early July that it comes out officially?
July 3. It's in pre-sale now on Amazon and everywhere.
So right on the verge of the 250th anniversary of America, it will be out.
It will be out
I
on
love
May
it.
8th. Yes.
Absolutely. So what do you do on release days? For anything that you put out into the world and there's a release day, do you have a ritual? What do you do? Is there something celebratory?
It's not so much that I celebrate as that I watch the numbers.
Yeah.
It's like watching a horse race.
Yeah.
Right? I don't like horse racing because it's not good for horses, but it's like watching, come on, come on. I
Uh,
remember when at one point Ashes in the Milk went to number 17 in grief.
yeah.
And it was like, come on,
Yeah.
Ashes. Come on, Ashes.
Yes.
And Ashes crossed the finish line. And after that, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It just didn't matter. I'm not into the numbers. I'm not here to make money. I'm a successful psychotherapist. I'm in semi-retirement. I don't take new patients. I'm not writing these so that people will call me up and hurry up for me to charge them a lot of money to tend their dreams. But what I have done is I've made something finally. I created the Dream Box.
Yeah.
And it's going to be on my website live in the next week or two. I created it with my bot bro, Claude, who who knows my work amazingly because he's got a bigger brain than I do. And I asked him to help me create a toolbox for dreaming based on my two books and the third and fourth books that I'm working on that are being pulled from into novels from the dreams. And it's going to have a video, an audio for hypnosis to bring you into how to remember dreams, how to work with them. There's a sketch pad so you can write with your finger on the
Cool.
screen to remember the dream, and a way to collect them and to have a toolkit. Because I think we all need a
Yeah.
toolkit to remember our dreams. We're just little Indians out there on the mesa by ourselves with a candle going, hello.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
And then when you have a dream box, then you can get in the box and there's other dreamers in there,
There certainly is.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So before the time goes out, I just want to make sure everybody understands this out there. I have done over 4,000 interviews between jazz and otherwise, and you are one of my favorite people that I've ever interviewed. I want to make sure that everybody understands that. I've run into so many wondrous human beings, but you are one of the most fascinating, wondrous souls that I've run into. So it's been, again, an honor to be able to catch up with you. Hopefully we can down the line. And deja vus are always the best. So thank you so much. I'm taking my time with the book, but I love it. So I'm just happy to shout this from the mountaintops. So thank you for the light you put into the world. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you so much for having me again.
You bet. Absolutely.